Sergeant Kay Novak's day had started with exactly 3 thoughts. 1. Light duty was supposed to be light. 2. Escorting a school field trip beat getting shot at. 3. She really should have eaten breakfast. Turns out, 2 out of 3 wasn't bad. The breakfast thing was about to become a real problem. "All right, everyone," Kay called from the front of the transport bus, projecting her voice over the excited chittering, humming, and clicking of 22 alien children. "Museum rules: stay with your buddy, don't touch the exhibits, and please, please, don't eat anything that isn't food." A small Quilix child raised 3 tentacles. "What about the decorative crystals?" "Not food, Zix. But they smell like..." "Still not food." Instructor Wellness, the Vrynn teacher who'd drawn the short straw for this field trip, chimed nervously from his seat. His crystalline body refracted the morning light into anxious patterns. "Sergeant Novak, are you certain the diplomatic quarter is secure? The children's parents were concerned." Kay adjusted the medkit on her hip. "Wellness, I'm assigned to this because I'm injured. Light duty. Babysitting duty. This is literally the safest posting in the entire sector." She really should have knocked on wood, or whatever the alien equivalent was. The first explosion hit 3 blocks away. The bus lurched. Children screamed, a cacophony of species-specific terror that translation software couldn't quite capture. Kay was moving before the second explosion hit. "Everyone down!" She was already scanning for threats, assessing damage, calculating survival odds. Old habits, bad habits, necessary habits. The third explosion was closer, close enough that Kay felt it in her teeth. "Of course," she muttered, checking her sidearm. "Of course this happens on my day off." The bus driver, a Plixi whose name Kay couldn't pronounce, was frantically trying to restart the engine. Smoke poured from the hood. "It's dead," the driver squeaked through his methane breather. "We're dead." "We're all..." "Nobody's dead yet," Kay snapped, "which means we keep it that way." "Wellness. Head count." The teacher was frozen, crystal body gone completely transparent with fear. "Wellness. Yes. 22, all present." Another explosion. Closer. Kay's tactical HUD was screaming alerts. Kraith forces. Full assault on the diplomatic quarter. Enemy strength, too damn many. Friendly support, too damn far. She pulled up the evacuation map. Nearest safe zone. 8 minutes on foot. Might as well be 8 years with kids who had 6 legs, or tentacles, or needed methane atmospheres. The bus was a death trap. Outside was a kill zone. Perfect. "Okay, kids," Kay said, voice steady despite her heart trying to escape her chest. "Remember those duck and cover drills your teacher made you practice?" 22 small heads, appendages, crystal structures nodded. "Yeah, we're doing that for real now. Fun, right?" A small Thoral started crying. Kay knelt down, met his 4 eyes. "Hey, what's your name?" "Tikcha. Tikcha, I need you to be brave. Can you do that?" The child nodded. "Good. Because I need you to help me keep everyone else calm. Think you can do that?" Another nod, more certain this time. "That's my guy." Kay stood. Through the shattered windows, she could see them coming. Kraith forces, armored, armed, advancing in formation. She counted 12. No, 15. 20. This was bad. Commander Zraltok led his unit through the burning diplomatic quarter with professional efficiency. The attack was going perfectly, minimal resistance, maximum chaos, exactly as planned. Then he saw the bus, disabled, stranded, perfect target. He raised his hand, signaling his troops to halt. This would send a message. The Galactic Council thought they were safe in their diplomatic zones? Wrong. That's when he saw the human. Standing in front of the bus. Arms spread. Body positioned between his forces and the vehicle. Zraltok had fought humans before. Knew their tactics, their aggression, their refusal to follow sensible combat doctrine. But this was new. The human was female, wearing medic insignia, light armor, sidearm holstered, not exactly combat ready. And yet there she stood. Human! Zraltok called out, his translator rendering his words into harsh syllables. Stand aside. This does not concern you. The human smiled. It wasn't friendly. Yeah, see, here's the thing, she called back. Bus full of kids behind me. So it kind of does concern me. You are one. We are many. You cannot protect them. Probably not, the human agreed. But I'm gonna die trying. So there's that. Zraltok studied her, looking for the trap, the trick, the tactical advantage. There wasn't one. She was just standing there. This is a human honor challenge, one of his soldiers suggested. They do this. Fight impossible odds for glory. No, Zraltok said slowly. Look at her stance. She's not challenging us. Then what? She's a shield, his soldier laughed. One person cannot shield. Fire! Someone shouted. Whether it was Zraltok's order or panic from his troops, he'd never be sure. Plasma bolts lit up the air. The human didn't move. Kay felt the first hit like a hammer to her chest. Her armor held. Barely. The second hit cracked it. The third went through. Pain exploded across her ribs. White-hot. Blinding. She didn't fall. Behind her, she heard Vrynn screaming. Sergeant Novak! You must retreat. This is suicide. Kay's laugh came out bloody. Yeah, well, I'm bad at following orders. Character flaw. She could hear the children crying. Could feel her armor failing. Could taste copper and pain. Could also feel the med injector in her pocket. Combat stims. Emergency coagulants. Pure liquid. Stay conscious when you really shouldn't be. She'd saved them for emergencies. This qualified. Kay jabbed the injector into her thigh. The drugs hit her system like a freight train. Pain didn't disappear. But suddenly didn't matter as much. Another hit. Another crack in her armor. Everyone staying calm back there? Kay called, voice steady despite everything. Good. Nobody look at the blood. Yes, that's mine. Don't worry about it. The Kraith had stopped firing. Probably confused why she was still standing. Kay understood the confusion. She was pretty confused herself. 14 hits. She'd counted. 14 separate impacts that should have put her down. Her armor was done, completely compromised. She was still standing. Through the pain fog and combat stim haze, Kay saw the Kraith commander approaching. Cautious, like she might explode. Honestly, at this point, anything was possible. Why? The alien's translator made the words sound almost human. Almost curious. Why won't you fall? Kay smiled. Blood on her teeth. Blood everywhere, really. Because they're kids, she said simply. The commander stared. Kay reached into her medkit, past the bandages and coagulants and emergency supplies, found the scalpel. It wasn't much of a weapon, wasn't designed to be. But Kay hadn't spent 6 years in medical school to not know where every nerve cluster, major artery, and structural weak point was located on most known species, including Kraith. My turn, Kay said. The commander took a step back. Behind Kay, 22 alien children sat completely unharmed. In front of Kay, 20 Kraith soldiers had just made a terrible discovery. Humans didn't just protect their own young, they protected any young, with their lives, and sometimes with their scalpels. Kay knew exactly where to cut. Medical school had been thorough, expensive, soul-crushing, and thorough. 6 years of learning every muscle, nerve, and pressure point of 43 different species. The Kraith were number 12 on that list. The first soldier lunged. Kay sidestepped, barely, her broken ribs screaming protest, and the scalpel found the nerve cluster behind his left shoulder joint. The Kraith's arm went dead. He dropped his weapon. Kay was already moving to the next target. She should be dead, someone was shouting. Why isn't she dead? Kay ducked under a plasma bolt, felt it singe her hair. Medical school, student loans, spite, pick one. The scalpel wasn't designed for combat. Too small, too delicate. But precision beat power when you knew exactly where to strike. Second soldier, pressure point behind the knee. He went down. Third, nerve cluster along the spine. Paralysis, temporary but effective. Kay's vision was tunneling. Blood loss, critical. The combat stims were keeping her conscious, but they couldn't replace the blood she'd lost. Her broken ribs shifted with every movement. Each breath was glass in her lungs. She was still fighting. "Teacher," a small voice called from the bus, "why is the human still moving?" Wellness's crystalline voice was hollow. I don't know. This shouldn't be possible." Kay grabbed a smoke grenade from her medkit, standard issue for emergency. Signaling. She threw it. Thick white smoke erupted, obscuring the battlefield. The Kraith's thermal scopes lit up the fog, but Kay already knew where they were. Could hear them, could almost feel them through the combat stim haze. Emergency flare next, designed for SAR operations. Blinding white light in close quarters. The Kraith screamed, vision overloaded. Kay moved through the smoke like a ghost, like something that refused to die because dying wasn't on the schedule until the kids were safe. Fourth soldier, fifth, sixth. The scalpel was getting slippery. Blood. Hers, theirs, everyone's. Her left arm wasn't working right anymore, fractured somewhere between hit 9 and hit 14. She switched the scalpel to her right hand, kept going. Captain Morrison's extraction team hit the LZ expecting casualties. What they found was worse. The bus was a wreck. Smoke everywhere. Scorch marks and blood painting the diplomatic quarter in shades of violence. And in the middle of it all, Sergeant Kay Novak collapsed against the bus. Scalpel still gripped in her remaining functional hand. Covered in blood. Most of it hers, some of it not. Still breathing. Somehow. Behind her. 22 alien children, unharmed, huddled together, staring at the human who'd refused to let them die. "Jesus Christ, Novak," Morrison breathed, dropping to his knees beside her. "What did you do?" Kay's eyes focused on him. Took a second. Maybe 3. "My job," she rasped, then smiled. Blood on her teeth, delirium in her eyes. "Also, I need a medic." Ironic, right? Morrison was already scanning her vitals. The readout made his stomach drop. 14 gunshot wounds, 3 broken ribs, fractured left arm, massive blood loss, organ damage, system shock. She should be dead. Should have been dead 20 minutes ago. "How are you still conscious?" Kay's laugh came out wet. "Drugs. Good ones. Military grade. Probably gonna need my liver replaced." "Probably gonna need everything replaced," Morrison muttered, signaling for the medics. Around them, his team was securing the area. Kraith soldiers, those still conscious, were being taken into custody. Commander Zraltok was among them, staring at Kay with something between horror and fascination. "She wouldn't fall," he kept repeating to anyone who'd listen. "I shot her. We all shot her. Why wouldn't she fall?" Kay tilted her head toward him. "Kids," she said simply. "Behind me. Couldn't fall. Math was easy. But you're not their species. Doesn't matter. Your body was failing." "Yeah, noticed." "This makes no sense." "Welcome to humanity," Kay interrupted. "We're all about that nonsense." Morrison was getting her stabilized. 4 lines. Trauma foam. Emergency coagulants. "Transport's 2 minutes out," someone reported. Kay's eyes were closing. The stims were wearing off. Reality catching up. "Kids okay?" she mumbled. Morrison looked at the 22 children. Wellness was with them now, doing a head count with shaking. "Appendages. All accounted for. Not a scratch on them." "Good." Kay's voice was fading. "Did my job. Can sleep now. Stay with me, Novak." "Sleeping. Not dying. Difference. Ask me later." Then she was out. Dr. Thexel had reviewed combat footage before. Had studied human resilience. Their pain tolerance, their survival instinct. This was different. The Quilix physician played the recording again. Watched Sergeant Novak take hit after hit. Watched her stay standing through injuries that would have killed most species instantly. The medical assessment was clinical, detached, professional. Subject sustained lethal damage, multiple times over. Survival probability, 0.003%. Actual survival, 100%. Explanation. Insufficient data. Thexel's tentacles writhed with frustration. Kay Novak was in the recovery ward, awake, alert, annoyed. Thexel entered the room with 17 datapads and 0 answers. "Sergeant Novak, I need to understand how I'm not dead." Kay was in a hospital bed, hooked up to enough equipment to stock a small clinic. Yeah, join the club, wondering that myself. The pain alone should have incapacitated you. Your nervous system registered damage that would induce shock in any known species. Yeah, I noticed. Hurt like hell. Then, why? Kids needed me. Kay said it like it was obvious. Like it was simple. So I stayed standing. Not complicated. Thexel's translator struggled with the emotion in her voice. Settled on. Frustrated confusion. But the pain, the damage. Your body was actively shutting down. Yeah, Kay agreed. Still had a job to do, though. Thexel pulled up the analysis. The combat stim levels. The adrenaline. The sheer bloody-minded refusal to die. You used stimulants beyond safe parameters. Suppressed pain beyond normal capacity. Forced your body to continue functioning through catastrophic damage. That's the medical school education paying off. All to protect offspring not genetically related to you. Not even your species. Kay was quiet for a moment. Then, Doctor, you have kids? Thexel's tentacles curled. 3 offspring. Why? Would you take a bullet for them? Of course. Biological imperative. Would you take a bullet for someone else's kids? Thexel hesitated. Kay smiled. Tired. Honest. That's the difference. Humans don't really distinguish. Kid's a kid. Needs protecting. Simple as that. The paper that followed would be classified, analyzed, dissected. Human pain suppression and protection of non-related young. Implications for combat psychology. It would change doctrine. Reshape strategy. Terrify half the galaxy. And Kay would read it from her hospital bed and think, all that fuss because I didn't want kids to get shot. Seemed excessive. But then her orders came through. Galactic Council summons, immediate. The Kraith wanted her tried for excessive violence. The children's parents wanted her declared a hero. Human military brass were reading the report with growing interest. And somewhere, in classified briefings across the galaxy, the same realization was dawning. Humans would die before letting kids get hurt. Any kids. All kids. That wasn't just admirable. It was terrifying. Because you couldn't predict it. Couldn't control it. Couldn't aim it. You could only hope it was pointed in your direction and not against you. Kay finished reading her summons. Well, she told the empty room, this is going to be a thing. Outside, the galaxy was learning a lesson it should have understood sooner. Never threaten children in front of a human. They might just decide those children are worth dying for. And then they'll make you regret making them prove it. The Galactic Council chamber was designed to make people feel small. It worked. Kay stood at the central podium, dress uniform crisp despite the bandages showing at collar and cuffs. Her left arm was still in a brace. Ribs taped. Moving hurt. Breathing hurt. Standing in front of 200 species representatives while they judged her? That hurt differently. Magistrate Kilvar, ancient, dignified, with mandibles that had seen 1,000 years of galactic politics, looked down at her with something between pity and confusion. Sergeant Novak. His voice carried the weight of ceremony. You stand before this council accused of excessive force, violation of combat protocols, and, he paused, consulting his datapad, willful disregard for personal safety. Kay blinked. I used a scalpel. Against rifles. How is that excessive? The Kraith prosecution, a scarred warrior named Velkesh, stood. You refused lawful orders to retreat. You intentionally drew fire. You engaged in combat while critically wounded. Yeah, Kay agreed. Away from the kids. That's called basic decency where I'm from. You risked your life. To save theirs. Still not seeing the problem. Velkesh's scales flushed darker. The problem is you violated every known combat protocol. You should have retreated, called for support, followed proper engagement procedures. There wasn't time for proper procedures, Kay interrupted. Bus was disabled. Kids couldn't run. Enemy was advancing. I had maybe 30 seconds to decide. So I decided. To die. To buy time. Kay's voice was flat, professional. Which worked. Kids are alive. Mission success. Chilvar raised a hand for silence. Sergeant Novak, help us understand. These children were not your species, not your genetic relatives. Why risk permanent injury or death to protect them? Kay stared at him. Because they're children. But you don't need a biological connection to care about children. Kay's frustration was bleeding through now. They were scared. They were in danger. They needed someone to protect them. I was there. I had training. I had gear. I made a choice. An illogical choice, someone from the gallery called. Kay turned to face them. Maybe. But it's the only choice I could live with. And yeah, before you ask, I'd do it. Again. Every single time. The chamber erupted in debate. Chilvar's mandibles clicked for order. We will hear from additional witnesses, he announced. Bring in the children. 22 alien children entered the council chamber like a school parade. Small. Nervous. But determined. Instructor Velnus escorted them, his crystalline form still showing stress fractures from that day. Chilvar's voice softened. Young ones. Can you tell us what you saw? A small Quilix child, Zix, raised tentacles. Sergeant Kay stood in front of the bad guys. They shot her. A lot. But she didn't move. Just stood there. Between them and us. Were you frightened? Asked a counselor. Yes. But Sergeant Kay kept talking to us. Told us everything would be okay. A Vrynn child chimed in, crystals resonating with memory. She was bleeding. We could see it. But she smiled at us, even though she was scared. We could tell she was scared. But she smiled anyway. Why do you think she was scared? Chilvar asked gently. Because dying is scary, the child said simply. But she did it anyway. For us. A Plixi child spoke from their methane chamber. She said, nobody touches my kids. But we're not her kids. We're not even her species. She said it anyway. One by one, the children spoke. About how Kay stood when others ran. About how she talked them through the terror. About how she never once considered abandoning them. The testimony was devastating in its simplicity. Kay, standing at the podium, was trying very hard not to cry. Failing, mostly. Guys, she said, voice thick. You're making this really hard. I'm supposed to look tough here. Little Tikcha, the Thoral who'd been crying on the bus, chittered loudly. You are tough. You fought the bad guys with a tiny knife. That was a scalpel, buddy. Medical instrument. You made them run away. I made them reconsider their life choices. Different thing. The chamber had gone quiet. Every species representative was watching, listening, understanding maybe, that this wasn't tactics, wasn't strategy. It was something deeper, something instinctive, something human. They brought Commander Zraltok in wearing restraints, unnecessary probably. He'd surrendered, cooperated fully. But protocol was protocol. He stood before the council, scales dulled with exhaustion. Commander, Chilvar began, describe the engagement. Zraltok's voice was hollow. I ordered the human to stand down. She refused. Did she engage offensively? No. She positioned herself as a barrier, a shield. He paused. I didn't understand. Thought it was a tactical error. So I fired. And then? She remained standing. The chamber waited. I fired again, multiple times. My entire unit engaged. She took 14 direct hits. Zraltok's eyes found Kay. She remained standing. Impossible, someone breathed. Yes, Zraltok agreed. I've fought warriors from 30 species, veterans, soldiers, killers. None refused to fall when mortally wounded. But she wouldn't move. Couldn't you simply advance? Move around her? Zraltok's laugh was bitter. She was the shield. To get past her, I'd have to move through her. To move through her, I'd have to kill her. To kill her. He stopped. To kill her required killing the children. Kay finished quietly. Zraltok nodded. I realized that. Finally. That she would die before moving. That the only way past her was through her corpse. And that meant... He closed his eyes. Killing children. And you couldn't do that. I'm a soldier, not a monster. His eyes opened, focused on Kay. But you were willing to die. For offspring, not your species, not even your genetics. Kay shrugged, winced as her ribs protested. Yeah. So? So? Zraltak's voice rose. That makes no sense. There's no evolutionary advantage, no tactical benefit, no strategic value. There's kids who get to go home to their parents, Kay interrupted. That's the value. That's the whole point. The chamber was silent. Kilvar leaned forward. Sergeant Novak, if placed in the same situation again, I'd do exactly the same thing. Even knowing the cost? Especially knowing the cost. The magistrate sat back, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Around the chamber, representatives were conferring, reassessing, recalculating, because they'd just learned something terrifying. Human protective instinct didn't distinguish species. If humans decided something was theirs to protect, they'd die for it. Every species in that chamber had the same two thoughts. 1. What if humans decide to protect us? 2. What if we're a threat to something they've decided to protect? The answer to both was suddenly, terrifyingly clear. You'd better hope you're on the right side of that equation, because humans didn't negotiate about kids. They didn't compromise. They just stood there and refused to move. Until you killed them. Or backed down. And most species, looking at Kay Novak standing bandaged but unbowed, were realizing the same thing Zraltak had learned the hard way. They weren't monsters. So they'd back down. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Kay Novak, cleared of all charges, commended for exceptional valor, awarded medals from 6 different species. She accepted them with a nod, a smile, and the quiet certainty that she'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Because some things were worth dying for. And kids, any kids, all kids were at the top of that list. The council's ruling came with ceremony, medals, speeches. Kay stood through it all, trying not to fall asleep. Sergeant Kay Novak, Magistrate Kilvar announced, this council finds your actions not only justified but exemplary, heroic. You are hereby cleared of all charges and commended for extraordinary valor. Applause. From 200 species. It echoed. 6 different civilizations presented medals. Each one came with a speech about courage, sacrifice, and interspecies cooperation. Kay accepted them politely, tried to look grateful, mostly looked tired. Can I trade these for better medical coverage? She asked during the 7th presentation. The hospital bills are insane. The Plixi ambassador paused mid-speech. What? Nothing. Never mind. Thank you for the shiny thing. The new military doctrine was announced the next day. Human protective response. Extreme prejudice. Expected all combat scenarios now included the notation. Presence of human protective personnel equals absolute defense of designated zone. Plan accordingly. Kay read it from her hospital bed. That's not a real protocol. Captain Morrison, visiting with flowers and bad news, shrugged. It is now. Also, you've been reassigned. To what? Diplomatic protection specialist. Kay stared. I'm a medic, not a bodyguard. You're whatever we need you to be, Morrison said, not unkindly. And right now, we need someone who won't move. Someone who'll stand between bullets and civilians. Someone who'll die protecting kids. Yeah, I got it. Kay sighed. This is because of the report, isn't it? This is because you proved something the galaxy needed to learn. That humans are crazy? That humans care. And that's more valuable than any weapon. The protection protocol rolled out across the galaxy within weeks. Multiple species requested human protective personnel for schools, hospitals, civilian centers. The logic was sound. Humans would protect those facilities with their lives. The results were unexpected. Human security guard Briggs, assigned to a Kraith detention facility, was fired within 3 days for protecting prisoners from harsh interrogation techniques. They're prisoners, his commander had shouted. They're people, Briggs had replied. And that's torture. Not happening on my watch. Nurse Williams refused to discharge an alien patient despite direct orders from hospital administration. Patient's not ready, she said flatly. The insurance won't cover. Don't care. He's staying. Teacher Rodriguez shielded students from mandatory standardized testing. This assessment causes psychological harm, he'd declared, physically blocking the testing proctors. Find another way to measure learning. The pattern was clear, immediate, consistent, unstoppable. Humans protected what they thought needed protecting, whether you wanted them to or not. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. We've created a problem, announced the Vrynn representative. Humans protect indiscriminately. We can't aim them, can't control their protective instinct. Long silence. Then someone asked, "Is that a problem?" Longer silence. "No," came the eventual answer. "But it's unpredictable. And unpredictable makes military strategists nervous." "Then maybe," suggested the human ambassador, "stop trying to weaponize caring. Just accept that humans will protect things. And plan around it." Another pause. "Fine," the council agreed. "But we're updating the warnings." Kay was cleared for active duty 6 weeks after the incident. Active duty meant Diplomatic Children's Center. 50 alien kids, multiple species, all needing supervision, education, and protection. She also got a security team, watching her mostly, diplomatic observers, taking notes constantly, and military analysts, updating threat assessments in real time. Everyone wanted to know, was Kay's response an anomaly or standard human behavior? Kay ignored them all. She had kids to watch. "All right, everyone," she called during first aid training. "Who can tell me what to do if someone's bleeding?" 15 small hands, tentacles, appendages shot up. "Apply pressure," chirped a Thoral. "Elevate the wound," added a Quilix. "Call for help," finished a Vrynn. Perfect. Gold stars for everyone. The observers watched, took notes, tried to find the combat protocol activation trigger. There wasn't one. Kay checked scraped knees, administered medicine, taught proper bandaging technique, helped with homework, normal medic things, normal childcare things. One analyst finally approached. "Sergeant Novak, when does your protective response activate?" Kay looked up from bandaging a Plixi's scraped tentacle. "Hopefully never. That's kind of the point of protection. You prevent the injury, not just respond to it. But if there was an attack, then I'd do my job. Which is..." Kay gestured at the children playing. "Keep them safe. Same as always." "You'd take bullets for them again?" Kay didn't hesitate. In a heartbeat, every time. The analyst updated his file. Kay went back to checking band-aids. 6 months later, Dr. Thexel compiled her final report. It was classified. Immediate distribution to all military commands. Final analysis. Human protective response. After extensive study, observation, and analysis, the following conclusions are reached. Human protective response is not trainable, not suppressible, not predictable. Humans will protect perceived young regardless of species, genetic relation, or tactical logic. Subject Kay Novak's response is not exceptional among humans. It is typical. Subsequent testing across human populations shows 94% exhibit extreme protective response when young are endangered. Response includes pain suppression, injury tolerance, and refusal to retreat regardless of personal cost. This makes humans ideal protectors. It also makes them terrible soldiers in conventional sense. They will refuse orders that endanger protected units. They will prioritize civilian safety over mission objectives. They will die rather than abandon those they've designated as theirs. Recommendations. 1. Never place humans in positions requiring choice between orders and protection. They will choose protection. 2. Never threaten young in human presence. Response is immediate, disproportionate, and unstoppable. 3. Accept that human protective instinct cannot be aimed. Attempting to do so will fail. Personal note. Subject Novak has been promoted 3 times. Refuses combat pay. Increases. Donates excess salary to medical fund for alien children injured in conflicts. when questioned, states, "Kids shouldn't suffer because adults can't get along." This attitude appears universal among human protective personnel. They don't protect because they're ordered. They protect because they care. This cannot be weaponized. This cannot be controlled. This is the weapon. Proceed accordingly. At the Diplomatic Children's Center, Kay was teaching first aid to a mixed group of alien kids. A small Vrynn raised a crystalline appendage. "Sergeant Kay, would you really take bullets for us again?" Kay paused, considered the question seriously. "I'd rather not get shot at all, kiddo." That hurt. A lot. But yeah, if I had to. Why? Such a simple question. Such a complicated answer. Kay looked at the 50 children in her care. Quilix, Vrynn, Thoral, Plixi, and 6 other species. Different biologies, different cultures, different everything. "Because you're worth it," she said simply. "All of you." The child seemed satisfied, went back to practicing bandaging technique. Kay returned to her lesson, unaware that in the observation room, military analysts were updating protocols, reshaping doctrine, rewriting the rules of engagement. One final note was added to her file. Humans don't protect because they're ordered. They protect because they care. This cannot be weaponized. This cannot be controlled. This is the weapon. Proceed accordingly. Dr. Thexel watched the footage, watched Kay teach, laugh, bandage scraped knees with the same care she'd shown standing against gunfire. "We asked the wrong question," she recorded in her final voiceover. "We asked what makes humans dangerous. We should have asked, what makes humans care, because that's what makes them unstoppable." 3 months later, the statistics came in. Galactic child mortality in conflict zones, down 87%. Human protective personnel stationed at every diplomatic facility, school, hospital, and civilian center in contested space. And a curious thing happened. Nobody attacked them. Not because humans were unbeatable. They weren't. Kay's own medical file proved that. But because humans would die protecting those kids. And nobody, not pirates, not terrorists, not even enemy military forces, wanted to be the one who made them prove it. Because humans who decided something was worth protecting, they'd stand between that thing and harm. They'd take every hit meant for those they protected. They'd keep standing when logic said they should fall. They'd keep fighting when biology said they should die. And they'd do it all with a smile and a terrible joke, because making kids feel safe mattered more than anything else. The galaxy learned its lesson. Don't threaten children in front of humans. They might just decide those children are theirs. And then you're the monster. And they're the shield you can't get past without becoming what you're fighting against. Kay Novak, completely unaware. She'd reshaped galactic military doctrine, finished her lesson and sent the kids to wash hands before snack time. Just another day at the Diplomatic Children's Center. Just another human doing what humans do. Caring about things. All things. Any things. Everything. Whether it made sense or not.